This episode of the MSP podcast is brought to you by Big Tex Outdoors. Everything you could possibly need for your firearm. If he doesn't have it, you probably don't need it. And PHLster holsters. Can't do a sub 5-second fast drill? We'll get a PHLster holster. If you still can't, well, at least you know it's not the holster's fault. And primary and secondary, the definitive source for the armed professional and the responsible citizen. Quit your bitching about all the rules and get better. Yeah, exactly. Hey guys, welcome to the MSP podcast, nicknamed the Get Better podcast, nicknamed the Self-Reliant podcast. Why do I say that instead of the 3% Yo, Go Burn It Down podcast for my gamer friends out there? It's because it's more than just training with your gun, guys. It's about health. It's about working out. It's about guns. It's about medical. It's about competing with others to see how you stack up against your peers, which is a perfect segue, man. Super, super stoked to have world champ, right?
Yeah, world champ.
World champ, multi-divisional GM, nuclear powered trigger finger, yada yada. BJ Norris, man, super stoked to have you on there. You are actually the first super high level competitor that I've had on the show, man. I couldn't be more stoked. So I went a little bit into there about your superhero status, but why don't you give us a little bit about your background, man, and why the hell you're on my show?
Oh man, now you put all the pressure on me.
You're used to pressure. You're used to pressure.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I've been competing. I guess 19 years now, almost. So I started back in 2000, December of 2000 is when it was. So I'm coming up on 20 years.
Good Lord! And how old are you now, man? If you don't mind me asking.
I turned 30 this year.
Yeah, because you've been doing it. Because you used to live in sort of my neck of the woods.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I'm in Northern Virginia. You were at what, Shenandoah?
So I grew up around right outside of DC in Fairfax for a little bit.
Okay.
And then when I guess I was probably in 99, so I would have been like 10, 11. We moved out in the Shenandoah Valley. And then that's kind of when we started shooting because we had some land and so we started shooting. You know, we had the little hand thrower clay pigeon thing that would go out in the pasture and shoot shotguns for a little bit. And then my brother actually saw a USPSA match on Jim's Scouting Show, which wasn't Shooting USA at that time. It was something different. What was it? It was an American Shooter. That was what it was called.
Yeah. Okay.
It was on ESPN or whatever it was. But anyway, so I saw that. Thought it looked like fun, and it happened to be that year the Nationals were up in East Huntington in Pennsylvania.
Oh,
so
okay.
So we drove up, watched the Nationals, and got into it. He shot for about 6 months, and then my dad and I said, this looks like too much fun. We got to do it too. So I started shooting in December of 2000 with a Glock 34. They had really... The Glock 34 was like the new hot thing on the market.
Yeah.
Back then. And the rest is kind of history. I spent, the first few years shooting that thing and then got into open. I guess it was probably 04, something like that. Because at that time, if you were shooting USPSA and you were a junior, you almost had to shoot open to get any sort of recognition. Production was very, very much in its infancy at that time. So I started shooting open. We moved to Texas in 05, or actually in late 04, I think it was. 04, 05, something like that. And that's when I really got into it. I apprenticed building some guns with Brazos Custom for a couple of years.
Okay.
In the summers, just on the weekends, doing some work for Bob and learned a ton doing that. I shot, in 2005, I think I shot like 20 different major matches. Which has kind of led me to where I am now, where I shoot for Wilson Combat. I own my own business called Short Round Supply.
Yep.
About 40 to 50 world titles in Steel Challenge, or national and world titles combined between the different divisions. I've won the overall Steel Challenge 3 times, including this year with a carry optics gun. Beat all the open guns with a carry optics gun. And
in
then
Steel Challenge, did you
in
really?
Steel Challenge, yeah, in Steel
Man, I
Challenge.
missed it. Are there videos up, man? I can't.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've got a couple
I
videos on the Instagram.
did not
Shooting.
know that. Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So I started shooting Carry Optics this year and having a really good time. I haven't shot an optic sighted pistol in practical pistol, if you will, since 2008.
Okay.
2008 was the last time I shot it. After that, I started shooting for Smith back when they had their huge factory team. So I started shooting for them a little bit. Did that for a couple of years, and then that kind of went away. And then I've been with Wilson since, gosh, I think I'm coming up on my 5th year with Wilson Combat.
What did you shoot what do you shoot in Carry Optics? Because Wilson doesn't have a striker fire gun, and single action isn't allowed, right?
Well, so single action is allowed in IDPA, interestingly
Right.
enough. But
Oh, so you're doing an IDPA.
No, I'm doing an IDPA, but I'm shooting a Gen 5 Glock 17.
Oh, you are. Okay. And Bill does modifications now, and now okay.
Yep, they do a bunch of Glock work. So they did it. I'm not using an MOS. They direct meld it into the slide, so it gets it as low as can be.
Yeah.
I don't for that gun. I don't care about backup sights. So I'm not using a plate or anything like that. It is drop straight into the slide.
Okay.
They did the grip. They did the battle worn finish on the slide, which I like because it annoys some people.
And that's what it's about. That's what it's about.
I think it looks kind of cool, and then it pisses a bunch of people off. So
when I was shooting for another company, I had the burnt bronze battle just because it was cool. You know why I thought it was cool? And here's the biggest thing. So do you know Matt Olachek?
Yeah.
Yeah, so GM PA area, right? The good troll, as I like to nickname him, right? He's like, dude, that's kind of cool. I go, yeah, I dig it. He goes like, it's very tactical. I'm like, dude, you know why I like this thing? It's because when I scratch it, I don't care.
Right.
Because I can't see it. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Anyway.
Yeah,
awesome.
It upsets some people. They're actually building me. My new gun will be a bright blue combat tough finish. So it'll be trans battle worn or something like that.
Trans battle. What is that? Dude?
Well,
doesn't know if it's a gun or a sperm.
It doesn't know whether it's supposed to be a competition finish or a tack Timmy finish.
That's funny. All right, so hey, I should probably bust out the thesaurus for those guys out there that listen to my podcast that do not compete. You're going to hear a couple of things out here, right? You're going to hear gamer, right? Gamer is basically a guy who competes. All right. You're also going to hear tactical Timmy. That is a guy who is only about self-defense, tactical stuff. Competition will get you killed in the streets. We'll make fun of both sides, I assume, in this thing. And it's all in good fun, right? Unless you absolutely match the description of either one of those. And, like we were saying before on the pre-thing, like I think about like my tactical self-defense friends. That's all they do. It's like you guys take everything way too serious. And my gamer friends, you guys don't take anything serious. There's a happy medium in there.
Yep. Thou shalt be slain upon the boulevard.
There you go. There you go. So awesome, man. So one of the things I want to talk to you about, and now that you're shooting CO, because everybody on this side kind of knows me as the red dot guy and stuff like that.
It's ghetto open.
It's ghetto open. I'm okay with that, bro. Bro, ain't nobody got a penthouse to be shooting open all the time.
That's right.
So we're going to talk about speed, getting better, seeing what you need to see, and getting bigger headlights. Like you and I were talking, and I think you kind of had an answer prep for me. One of the things I have been saying in the classes that I teach, right, which, again, I don't teach tactics. I teach fundamentals and performance specifically with the red dot pistol, right? And I've done, other than that, I think my biggest two accomplishments are I've sold more Steve Anderson's refinement and repetition books than anybody else except for maybe Brian Enos. And the other one is I've gotten more tactical guys into competition than anybody else. I don't know. I'm just making that shit up, but I feel pretty proud about that, right? I feel pretty proud about that, right? So part of it is what I tell people is like, the classic line of, hey, man, if you're starting to miss and you're getting beyond your headlights, slow down to get your hits. And I'm like, no, man, just get bigger headlights, right?
Right.
How do you get bigger headlights? So when you went from a certain area to the next level, right? What does that look like for you? What does your practice look like for you?
Well, I think, and I have this fight with competition guys all the time, and the thing that I always coach people is the mindset of swelling down and getting your hits is absolutely backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Slowing down has nothing to do with getting your hits.
Because we've all missed while going slow.
Right. Go slowing down is just slowing down. Mm. For me, the biggest thing that I always tell people is the way that you learn to drive a car 100 miles an hour around a racetrack is you're going to drive 110 miles an hour around a racetrack and run into the wall a couple of times.
Right. And
then you're going to drive at 100 and it's going to seem totally fine.
Right.
So
getting bigger headlights.
You can't, how I always tell people is, and this is the way I learned to shoot, and it's kind of the new way, right? So when I first got into shooting, everybody was, oh, just get your hits and the speed's gonna come. Well, I kind of did it the opposite.
Yeah. Yes, I've heard stories, bro.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Being in this area, there's people knew me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
My theory is that it's way easier to teach somebody to hit a target than it is to teach them to go fast.
Yeah.
So, when I look at students from the very beginning, I'd rather see that aggressiveness and that speed mindset than hitting a target. I can teach them to look at sights. I can teach them to pull a trigger.
Yes.
Because when it really comes down to it too, my opinion, how do you ensure that you're getting the best possible hits on a target? All comes down to this guy right here.
Right.
And
okay. And for the audio listeners, he's doing a trigger finger. He's doing a trigger finger shake there. So,
yes. Yeah. It's all comes down to trigger control, and it's not necessarily, that classic. I had this disagreement too. Trigger prep is not taking up the slack.
Mm.
We have all of these things that have been discussed throughout history and repeated ad nauseum. To the point where they've been so diluted down from who actually came up with them that it's just empty repeated information, right? I mean, it's just like going to freaking Wikipedia. Anybody can put anything up there, right?
Yeah, it's just regurgitated dogma. There's no substance behind it.
There's no. What do you do? Well, equal light, equal height, and take the slack out of the trigger, bro.
And then pin that thing.
Yeah, and then pin it. But when you look at trigger control, and you look at the process of it, and I hate people inventing their own terms for the sake of sounding smart, but I kind of had to do it here just to kind of help build a little bit of differentiation. Sure. Is I call what I do an activated trigger prep, and what I want to have is
say that. Whoa. So everybody knows I love big words, right? I love big words, but I missed that big word. Can you say that one more time?
An activated trigger prep.
An activated trigger prep.
Activated.
Oh, I thought you said okay. Activated trigger prep. Okay, I dig it. All right, go ahead.
Right. So because what I want to have is 85% of the trigger pull, of the weight of the trigger pull applied to the trigger before, as I do my final sight confirmation. So because think about if you shoot a Glock or any striker fired gun or a Beretta in single action, if you take up the slack, how much pressure have you actually put on the trigger?
Not much. Yeah, because let's say you got a 3-pound trigger, right?
Right.
You've taken up 0.15 of it, right?
Right.
There's nothing. There's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
But now, okay, so you've taken up, half a pound of pressure on a Glock, we'll say, to take up the slack out of the Glock trigger. Well, the gun weighs like, I don't know, 2 pounds loaded?
Yep.
Something like that?
Yep.
Well, now you've got a gun that weighs 2 pounds. Your trigger is 4.5 pounds, and you've only put like half a pound of pressure on it. And now you expect to go from half a pound to 4.5 pounds after you confirmed your sights without moving the gun.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Not at any level of speed.
Yeah.
And you can get away with doing that at 5 yards. And if you're shooting a target that's like 4 inches big.
Sure, because the cone of deviation is so small, man. You can flap that thing all over the place.
You can do it. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because there's just not enough distance
Yeah.
for the magic of geometry. For the magic of geometry to happen to you.
Right.
That's why I get a kick out of all these guys. Like, I see videos on Instagram of guys, like sticking a ratchet handle in the trigger guard and hitting it as hard as they can. And I'm like, what are you doing?
So when we take it out of that, and it's half the concept. It's half the concept. The problem with that is that ratchet is not connected to the rest of your hand doing that. Right. And that's why you can do it. So, but anyway, I hear you, man. Careful. We're going to get assaulted by secret squirrel operators here. Go ahead.
The NRA dark web. But yeah, so my goal is to have like, once you've made the decision, like, yep, I'm gonna shoot. So this applies no matter what you're shooting, whether it's defense or competition, tactical, whatever. Once you've made that decision, I'm gonna shoot. I want to put 80% of the weight of the trigger pull onto the trigger, confirm the sights, and then pull it the rest of the way. And it's a tough skill to develop. I'm not gonna, sugarcoat that. It takes a lot of dry fire of basically just sitting there. You're not even aiming a target. You're just cycle the gun, prep the trigger. Okay, I feel it. Okay, I can go a little more. Oh, that's too far. And you're just sitting there for hours. I've done it.
Yeah. What I tell people is they need to become intimately involved with their trigger.
Right. Right. So that I can feel every little bump. And I said, for a 5 pound trigger, I want to be able to sit there and hold, for sure 4 pounds on it.
Yeah.
I want to be able to sit there and hold 4 pounds basically all day.
Yeah.
So that, when I confirm the sights, now I've got, a 2 pound gun that I've only got to put 50% of the weight of the gun onto the trigger to get it to fire.
Yeah.
My chance of moving the gun at that point is greatly reduced.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly possible, but the problem is most people miss the target, not because they jerk the trigger in the sense of they're flinching, but they jerk the trigger because they're out there, they see the sights on the target, they don't have the trigger, they don't have the gun ready to shoot, right?
Right.
They've got, if to borrow a term from my very good friend Jerry Mitchellwick, he says it's, you're looking at the target with a dead gun.
Yes.
Because you don't have the gun ready to shoot.
Yeah.
So you see the sights on the target and you're like, okay, pull the trigger right now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they can't call their shot because they saw the sights when they decided to fire the gun, but they didn't see the sights when the gun actually fired.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you say call your shots to a lot of people, and they're like, well, the thing was there when I pulled the trigger. It's like, no, bro, it's where it lifted from is how you call your shot, right?
Right. Because they're, with when you say, pull the trigger right now, basically you end the shot process at that time.
Right.
So now you've created this gap in time between when you decided to pull the trigger and when the gun actually goes off.
Right.
And that's that window of time where the gun goes anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not with it at that point.
Right. Right. And I think that's the concept some people struggle with, but that's a good example of you are shooting the gun sooner, not faster. Right. If your sights are on and your trigger is not actively prepped or anything like that, and you're coming through that whole 6 pounds and you're behind the game, because that's where the snatch comes from that now thing, right? As opposed to getting up, prep, as soon as the sights are at an acceptable level, you're already halfway there, and then you can go sooner, not faster.
Right. I said it's not about slowing down. It's about, for the most part, for me to hit a target, you just have to have the trigger prep sooner.
Yeah, which is a technique. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, because so many people, like I do it during every class. I'll stand at 10 yards and I'll just stand there and I'll align the sights and I'll just move the gun around the A zone and be like, you see all this movement? I'm still inside the A zone here.
Right. Or, for people that want it's funny. It was like, an 8-inch circle is harder. It's harder if you got to use a lot of elevation. It's actually easier if your windage is screwed up.
Right.
So, but for most people, the 8-inch circle is harder than a USPSA alpha, but it still applies. Right.
Right. I say you pick your target and you're like, all of this movement, I'm still well within the target zone. The goal target zone is just where you screw up is generally speaking not in your sight picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean so when I think back to, here's a great example. So when I shot the Rocky Mountain IDPA regional a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was 13 points down for the whole match. 6 of them were on one stage, which was terrible, which was awful. It was awful. And is because I was dumb. It's because I got greedy on some moving targets.
Okay.
And I can say that the three of those points were because of an improper sight alignment, but out of the rest of the points down in the entire match, all 10 of them, I can say without question that they were because of trigger press, not because of sight alignment.
Oh, okay.
Or I guess because I was shooting a dot, sight alignment's not a thing, so it's sight picture.
Sight picture, sight package, and so you just kind of got greedy on a moving target, which is easy to do.
Right.
I
was behind it. I tried to shoot. I was dumb and just tried to shoot a static target before I shot a drop turner, which
for the audience out there, I'll just explain. If they don't know IDPA scoring, right? It's different from USPSA scoring, which is hard math. IDPA is just time plus. A perfect shot is in the down 0, which is an 8-inch circle. A little bit outside of that is down 1, which you add 1 second, and then it's down 3. Right?
Yep.
I haven't shot IDPA, and then that's 3 seconds. A down 3 is comparable to, say, a delta. A down 1 is comparable to a Charlie. So that's an interesting question. So this is going to be kind of a long setup into the question, but I think it's important. Right?
Okay.
So I'm out shooting at Jerry Weiscarver's. And you came up in conversation, right? Because I think we were talking about training splits, right?
Okay.
And having a very lively conversation about that. And I think you came up, right? And Jerry was like, yeah, man, I remember BJ when he was a kid, man. That dude had a God-given gift of what Steger calls the jailbait splits, right? The 16 or less, splits and stuff. And man, he used to just burn it down, and you would
not hit anything.
Yeah, you thought his first name was Mike, right? But then he got better and better and better, right? So I kind of want to talk about that progression, right? Are splits important, right?
Okay.
What was your progression of starting from being a kid blessed with fast splits but not hitting anything to hitting things, right?
Okay.
And then progressing in between the different sports, because I love using you as an example from a person that can modulate speed and accuracy depending on the game, right?
Okay. That's a fair statement. Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen you shoot USPSA, right, at a very, very obviously at a national level, right, where the splits come out depending on the stage, and it's glorious. I've also seen you do amazing transitions in Steel Challenge, but I've also seen you do amazing accuracy in IDPA while not really going slow, like a lot of people blame the game to be. How did you learn to modulate your split times and couple that with the acceptable level of accuracy? And how do you modulate between the three different sports, really?
Right. So, I mean, I guess, I learned from one of the best spazzes, which was Phil Strader.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Phil. And, when we got into it, Phil was coaching my brother and I, and he was that same way too, right? Where he would, spaz out and have awesome splits or not hit anything. Who knows?
Yeah.
And we were very fortunate to have Phil's influence, but it did rub off on us, I would say.
And it's interesting now because I've only shot with Phil once. We weren't on the same squad, but he was at the Delmarva sectional up here.
Uh-huh.
He won carry optics, and all I could think of was like, man, that dude is only doing what he needs to do, and it was awesome. It was awesome. So to hear you say that, again, that's part of the progression that happens, right? So, but I interrupted. Please continue.
Oh yeah, I know. Back in the old days when Phil was Capitol Police.
Yeah.
Gosh, I think he was close to the age I am now, or not much older.
Yeah.
We he was just this big gangly guy who he would shoot. Sometimes he'd hit stuff, and sometimes he wouldn't.
Right. My tactical friends right now are having
right.
So,
and he was an FI too. But
yeah.
But anyway, so I said that's kind of the way I learned to shoot, and for me the difference when I first started to see control and start seeing things was probably when I started shooting open and started shooting a dot. And that was three years or so into what I was doing and shooting. And I had some pretty good success with a Glock, and I think I had made master before I switched. I can't remember, but for me, when I started seeing, when you start seeing everything that a dot allows you to see, you start seeing all your mistakes a little better, and you start seeing the things that you can fix that don't necessarily affect your speed, right? Like you can see what effects your grip truly has under recoil. You can experiment with different grip pressures and different recoil springs and different ways to set your gun up, and you can see all the stuff that is actually happening under recoil that is definitely happening with an iron sight gun. You just can't really see it unless you're at a very, very, very high level with iron sights to where you're tuned in and you can see that stuff. It takes being, a world champion shooter with iron sights basically to be able to see what is happening under recoil to the gun the same way that, say, a B or an A class shooter with a dot can tell you.
Okay, fair. Yep, that's fair.
Okay. I think that's the difference. So, from there I was able to start seeing, okay, this is what's going on when I pull the trigger. This is what's going on, under recoil. Oh, I need to put more pressure on my left hand because the dot's going this way. Okay, I grip harder with my left hand. Okay, now the dot goes this way. And you start seeing that control, and then you know, I'm of the opinion that my time spent building guns had a big influence on that as well, because I was able to experiment. I mean, we were always experimenting with different guns. So we would put ports in different places on the barrel, because we're running, open guns at that point. So we were cutting slides back 1/2 inch. So instead of the 5-inch gun, we were running 4.5-inch guns.
Mm-hmm.
And we were experimenting with okay, if we put this size port 2 inches from the chamber or 3 inches from the chamber, we get more pressure, and if we reduce the size, it gets more. I mean, we got into it pretty hot and heavy of how to make guns perform.
Mm-hmm.
And that just makes you pay attention to what the gun is doing under recoil, even more so than when you're just shooting, right? Because you're trying to build guns to sell and make money.
Sure.
So you have to be able to articulate why the gun's better. So you have to pay attention to what's going on to it. And then as I progressed from there, then I swung back to shooting iron sights, and it was like, oh, hey, this is a lot easier than I remember. Because now I can see all of this stuff, and I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I can go, okay, well, obviously you can't put a comp on it, but if I change the spring rate to do this, or if I take weight out of the slide at the front of the slide versus the back of the slide, this is the effect that it has. So I really got into the technical side as well of being able to tune guns.
Yeah, man, kit matters. Kit matters. I don't care what people say. Everyone's just like, oh, you don't, okay, just go shoot more. I'm like, I get it, man, but if I've got the skill to do this cleanly, right, why wouldn't I want to make life easier?
Why exactly? Why wouldn't you want the best possible stuff?
Yeah.
So for me, when I started, for me, shooting the dot was really the difference of being able to see, what was going on behind the gun, and then, to modulate stuff between different sports is just, it's a mindset. I'm really big into the mental aspect of shooting and performance. I've taken classes with Lenny Bassam, in-person classes, read his book several times.
Right. For the audience, Lanny Basham's book is With Winning in Mind.
Right. And if you don't know who Laney is, he is an Olympic rifle shooter from back in the 70s. He was on the Army Marksmanship unit. He's got an Olympic gold medal. Super tuned in guy, does a lot of work now. I was fortunate to kind of jump into one of his small group classes right at the end. And it was cool because I was the only shooter in the class. The other people were like, there's like a stockbroker and like a day trader guy and some various other walks of life. But I was the only guy who was a shooter.
Yeah.
So me and him were like this during the class.
Yeah.
Because we could speak each other's language.
Sure.
And he was, I was probably, it was the year I won my third steel challenge. So that would have been 2011 that I took that class, and he knew who I was from shooting, and so that was a really neat experience. And I think to modulate between different sports is just, you have to be acutely aware of your goals and what the target is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a dead horse that gets beat a lot, but I'll say it again anyway, is that big giant brown piece of cardboard in front of you is not the target.
Right.
The A zone or the down zero or whatever it is the target, right? And I go a step farther, like, here's kind of a little steel challenge tidbit. My goal on the first run, right? Because you're shooting totally white plates. Everything's painted. You can't pick anything out on them.
Yeah.
I want to go just that little tinge. I want to take a little bit more tinge time to confirm my sights and press the trigger, so that I put a mark. My first run, my hits are more or less in the center of the plate.
Mm-hmm.
So that now on the rest of the 4 runs, I have something to look at.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, interesting. Because so for the
It's just
people that don't know what Steel Challenge is, right? It's 8 stages.
8 stages. Yep.
8 stages. They remain the same, various configurations, and you get 4 runs, right, on each
Five,
stage.
five
Five runs
runs.
on each stage, and they
Keep four.
drop the bottom one.
Right.
Right. Okay. So, and they drop the bottom one, right? And except for one stage, everything is sedentary, and you start from a surrender position draw, right? And for my self-defense minded friends, it looks more like what you do at the square range, right? Than say a USPSA or IDPA match. So, and it is just pure speed. I mean, you got to hit the plates and stuff like that of different configurations, different yardages. What's the furthest target out in any of the stages?
35.
25? 35. 35 yards, right?
Right.
And it is pure speed, and it's amazing. I got to get into it, man. They just opened up 2 out here. We have a new place that wasn't around when you were here, Shadowhawk. It's in Glengarry, West Virginia.
Uh-huh.
Well, Jerry Weiscarver is the match director for all of them.
Okay.
Right. So they're great matches. And then out at Eastern Shore in Maryland, they've got a Steel Challenge, right? So now you have the opportunity to do 2. The only thing in my way is they're on weekends, and so are open enrollment classes, right? So, but I do definitely want to give that a try. So anyway, so you put that there so that you've got a focus. That's awesome because your lowest one's going to be thrown out anyway.
Right.
That's an interesting strategy, man. That's an interesting strategy. Super.
Yeah, because I said I want something. When I'm looking down range, especially with a dot, right? I want to have something to look at on the target. Shooting a totally white target, especially if you're in a kind of the sandy background, which the match started out in Piru, California, which was borrowing another euphemism from Jerry. He's got a lot. If you don't know Jerry, I call him Jerry.
He's been along for a while, right? He's been around for a while. He's forgotten more about shooting than most of us will ever know.
He's been around a while, and he's a Cajun guy. So
yeah.
He describes shooting out in California as trying to shoot a polar bear in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Because you're talking white sand and white targets, and so your eyes, at that speed, right? Especially the targets against a berm, your depth perception is not there.
Right.
You can't tell the difference between the target and the berm.
Yeah.
If you're going fast or if you're shooting iron sights, so I really just try and make sure I get a reasonably good hit on the third string, so that way, okay, now there's a big black mark on the target. I can look at it now.
Nice strategy. I dig it.
And I can snap my eyes to that spot every time, and know where I'm looking, so that I can be a little bit more precise with where I put the gun. And then from there, I mean, for me, it's just all. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. For me, it's all about the trigger. To me, if you can have your trigger prep down and where it needs to be, it doesn't matter what you're shooting. The only thing that you have to be aware of really is the size of the target.
Okay.
And that's where USPSA and IDPA get a little tough. Is you just have to be really familiar with where you're supposed to be aiming.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, in all honesty, both sports have kind of gotten to the point, to win and to be at the top level, you can't drop points. That was kind of my my thing with when IDPA went to 1 second per point down. Honestly, it didn't change a whole lot at the top.
The top was still the top.
The top's still the top, and the top is still only dropping, basically, half. For me, I want half of the stages to be 0.
Yeah.
I don't want to drop points on half the stages, and no more than 1, 2 if there's a swing or a moving target on a stage. You know, and the stage count at most matches, that puts me at, 10 to 18 points down.
So what are you seeing in that, though? So when you say, let's say that you go from a USPSA match, right, and you're shooting major, and the difference between alphas and charlies are really only 1 point, and it's a burner stage, and yada yada, and you're going out, against all the hot shots in open, right? Speedy's there, who else is? What's his face? Who's the guy? Yeah, Les Murdoch.
Yeah,
and then
who
won Open 2 years ago? Cody
Baker, I think.
Yeah, they're all there, right? So how do you go from competing with those guys that are literally shooting at the speed of light, right, and then modulate to IDPA? What's the mental shift that you have to do?
Well, yeah, I think the mental shift just comes down to, I'm not going to accept less than almost a perfect sight picture.
Okay.
I'm going to hold. That's what, again, it comes back to, I'm going to hold my trigger prep until I am essentially perfectly, my sights, whether it be iron sights or a dot, I'm going to hold the trigger pull until I am confident that my sights are perfect, or perfect where they need to be. And I mean, most IDPA is within 10 yards, right? So, you're not, it's no great challenge of marksmanship to hit an 8-inch circle at 10 yards.
Oh, you're going to be getting some calls, man.
I know. I awoke the internet furor that's about to
How dare
rain
you?
down.
IDPA is all about supreme accuracy.
I said, that's compared to most of what I do, that's not a great challenge of marksmanship. So, for me, it's just saying, all right, I am not going to, accept a sight picture that's less than, 90% perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's pretty easy to do. I shot Bianchi Cup a couple years, and in that sport, you can't accept a sight picture that's less than 105% perfect.
Right.
And that's and that's a sport definitely of I credit Bianchi Cup kind of with the genesis of my thoughts on trigger prep, because interestingly enough, it was when I was shooting a revolver, a 686, that it really got down to it, because I could, I was shooting it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Where I was basically using like the middle of my second joint. Yeah.
Oh, really? That far in?
Way in there, and I was wrapping my finger all the way around, and I would pull the trigger until my tip hit the frame. I would wrap it all the way around, and I would come back and hook it. Okay. So the tip of my trigger finger would hit the frame, and that would be my stop.
That would be your pin. That would be your security blanket, right?
Right. So I would pin it right there, confirm the sights, and then just squeeze it just a little bit more, and it would go. So that's like the totally wrong way to do it, right?
Okay.
But I shot the best Bianchi scores I ever shot shooting that gun.
Oh wow! All right.
Because the gun's so easy to shoot.
Right.
But that's kind of where it started, and I guess that's the other thing that I would say is there's no one right way to pull the trigger. I know people. I get tons of questions. Like especially because I shoot a Beretta a lot. When I first got with Wilson, that was right when the Brigadier Tactical came out. So I was shooting it in production. I still shoot it in production. And I shot it in ESP. Actually, when I won ESP at IDPA Nationals, I think I shot a Beretta. Yeah, I did actually. So, and I get all the questions of, well, how do you deal with pulling a long double action trigger pull on the first one and then positioning your finger for, the second shot, that's now a single action. I think the overriding answer for me is you have to experiment to figure out what works best for you as a shooter.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think there's any one right way to do it because, when I was a kid and I've taught a lot of different people how to shoot, because I worked at an indoor range. So we had every skill level you can imagine walk through the door.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want a gun to protect myself. Okay, well, let's go grab a bunch of guns and see what you can do.
Yeah.
And I think people get really, really hung up on a double action trigger pull. For me, here's an interesting observation. For me, with Steel Challenge, total speed sport, right? For me, I lose more time on stages like Roundabout or Smoke and Hope that are really, really fast than I do on the accuracy stages. And the reason for that is just simply time to pull the trigger. I can't, on Smoke and Hope, for instance, and if you're not familiar with Steel Challenge, Smoke and Hope is a stage. It's 5 targets. There's 4 18 by 24-inch rectangles. 2 of them are at 7 yards. 2 of them are at 9 yards. And the stop point that you had to shoot last is a 12-inch point at 14 yards. So extremely fast stage. Most of your top guys, they're 4-string total. It is not unusual to see 1 or 2 people in the 6-second range for 4 strings.
Yeah.
So we're shooting it.
And that's total. Not one run, guys. Not one run, right? Because right now I got my guys are like, oh, I can do that in 6 seconds. 4 total.
Right. So the individual string times are down 165 to 175
from a surrender draw, guys.
Right. So our
draw.
Our first shot. My goal is in a match I want to have like a 65 first shot. So I physically can't traverse that distance at the same speed with a double action pull that I can, something that's super short like a Glock or an
Oh, that makes sense. Prep time is less. So
right, because like on the accuracy stages, like Pendulum, for instance, which the first target you shoot on that is a 12-inch plate at 18 yards, right? I have all the time in the world to prep the trigger because I got to make sure the sights are in the right spot. Right. So I can actually shoot the gun at roughly the same speed, as I can any other gun on the accuracy stages because I'm taking the time to confirm the sights. So I had time to prep the trigger.
Gotcha. That's interesting. So again, technique, right? Technique. I've said, if you really think about it, speed comes from efficiency. Efficiency comes from technique. Like that's kind of like my latest tagline before, because I hate when people go like, oh no, just do that 10,000 times slowly and smoothly. Speed just comes. Right? How's it come? UPS? FedEx? How's it come? No, man. Every other sport, you're applying a technique to something. And then we pick up a gun, and then just the ballistic gods bless you with it when you do enough work. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that,
No, and that's there's a lot of it's interesting to me having been doing this for a minute to see the progression. Like when I first got into it, I mean, there was nobody really treating the athletic part of it as truly athleticism. And there's still a bunch of people who don't. Now you've really got people breaking down the athletic parts of the sport and applying, stuff that was being done in baseball and soccer and football 20, 30 years ago, is now being, transferred over the shooting sports, but there's still this huge divide over, like you said, the ballistic gods, bless you with with skill after you've stood in your basement and posted 18 dry fire videos on Facebook.
Yeah.
But then there's the supreme other side of the coin where it's like, well, if you don't have an answer and use these giant words for every single little thing that you do,
there you go.
Yep. I've seen like the thumb pectoral index on the grip, and I'm like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah. In all fairness, that that's Craig Douglas's thing. When you get into that, some people want to pay for big words, right? You know what I mean? And sometimes you have to create that for marketing. The concept is very valid. Yeah. No, I hear what you say. I get blamed for that a lot about using big words. But here's the deal, right? Like I use the word proprioception, right?
Okay.
If anybody can figure out a way to say proprioception with less words, let me know. Because otherwise it's, where things are on your body at all times. That's like 11 words, bro. That's longer than proprioception. You know what I mean?
Right.
So sometimes they have it. I get it. Hyper tactical, dynamic, critical situation.
Right. That's right. Because
shit hit the fan. How about that?
Right. Well, I've been in situations where, people have asked me a question and I've answered it, and then it's like, well, but what do you think of this? And I'm like, you start having to think of big words to satisfy the question. It's like, dude, when you get down to it, bro, just put the sights on the target and pull the trigger.
Yep. 100%, man.
Man, you are way overthinking this problem.
Right. Yeah. And then you get some guys who just want to dumb things down even more, right? Like take the thingy out of the thingy and put your finger on the thingy,
right.
See the thingy. Well, then if that's all it is, why am I paying you $500 for a 2-day class?
Right. Yeah, it's just the training world is just so bizarre to me.
It is. Here's my analogy, man. Right. So, did you ever take martial arts growing up or anything?
No. And I was actually just about to say it's not just shooting that this applies to. This is everything.
Yeah. I think pistol shooting right now is just like the martial arts pre-UFC, right?
Okay.
Where everybody, there was some like really good dudes out there, but you really could, there really wasn't any information avenues to them unless you lived by them because, 93, the internet wasn't a thing, right? But there was other dudes that were really good at marketing and, they were doing things like pressure point stuff and dim mock and I can't show you, otherwise I'd have to kill you. Right. And then now with the UFC, man, it's turned into, looking at martial arts more as a metric based application. Right. If you come in with your, drunken crane style, nobody gives a shit. Right. That's not how stuff works. Right. And I think with pistol shooting, with more and more of, the high level barrel chested freedom fighters coming out of GWAT and them getting into competition, and then the competition guys going, you know what, man, shit's kind of fucked up out there. Maybe I should start carrying a gun, just not for matches.
Right.
And it's starting to meld. And then the athletic part is starting to come in, man, and it's interesting. It's starting to grow just like mixed martial arts are, where things are like, so how do I become a good competitor? You do this, and this. We need to talk about trigger press, sight alignment, or sight package. And we need to talk about movement, right? And we need to talk about movement because, for example, in competition, especially USPSA, other than a classifier, nobody gives a shit about your point A draw. It really doesn't matter.
No, in USPSA, it doesn't matter.
Right. Should you have it? Sure, knock it out, right? Because there are things like classifications. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but who cares about classifications?
Yeah, but then you should start watching things like, you watch, the Great Quandary. Rob Latham still is competitive in single stack, right? And he's got does he have any of his own joints anymore?
So when he had both his knees replaced, he grew half an inch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. As a guy with a knee replacement. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here's a funny story about me and Rob, and I've known Rob a while. And if Robbie and I stand next to each other, next time, I know there's pictures of this out on the internet.
Yeah.
We're standing next to each other. Look at the total height differential, and then look at where our belts are relative to each other's belts.
Oh, interesting.
So
okay.
So our belts are less than 1.5 inches, 2 inches apart.
Yeah. Right.
His legs are freakishly short compared to the rest of them.
Interesting.
So yeah, we can bump guns and bump magwells into each other.
Yeah.
But I only come up to his shoulders.
That's interesting, man. Well, maybe that's why he can move so fast, because his legs are so short and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Got T-Rex arms.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that kid you grew up with, right? When you had the bench pressing contest, right? You got long arms, you're like, and that dude's like, bah, because his arms are so short.
It's true, right? So if I stand, if anybody stands with a normal competition rig, their gun's gonna hit them like probably somewhere right here,
right?
As where the gun's gonna. Robbie's gun's hitting right here.
No shit. That's interesting. That's the stuff I find fascinating.
We always give them a hard time. So you were genetically engineered to be a pistol shooter.
Yeah, right. yeah, right. I always find that stuff interesting, man. Or you look like you running a stage, or Les Murdoch running a stage, or Shane Coley running a stage. All different body types and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But the way you accomplish things and the efficiency might be different, but technically they're the same, right?
Right.
The guy that I like watching, that I think everybody kind of likes watching because he, burst onto the scene, is if you break down Hwan-Sik Kim.
Yeah.
And the way he runs a stick, the way he bends over, blah, 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 it's like, that is absolutely not how you shoot. Right. With how far forward he is, right? It's like,
absolutely.
Who taught him how to shoot? Rob Pincus? What the hell's going on here? But because he is absolutely efficient in going through in his kinesiology, because I think he got into an auto accident, so that's why he does it. Because he's consistent, because he's efficient, that works.
Right.
That works. It's a way, not the way.
Right.
Right.
And he is honestly, in terms of breaking stuff down and being able to explain stuff, he's one of the best currently there is, in my opinion. He is able to very, very plainly articulate why he is doing something.
Right. So you take him, right, like in Carry Optics, right? You take him, and by his own volition, he was never an athletic person.
Right.
But he's hyper intelligent in breaking down each technique and application to the height of the efficiency. On the other hand, you take a pure athletic beast, right? Like Shane Coley, right?
Right.
He can also do the same thing. He is blessed to be able to, bend bars with his hands and stuff like that. But it's another way. But he knows how he does everything too. And then you have different body styles, your body style, JJ's body style, KC's body style. And it's just amazing how all these different ways can reach the same goal and win championships,
Right. And I'm working on my body style right now. Ugh.
Yeah, but dude, you're blessed with those magic elf feet, dude.
But these elf feet gotta have less on top of them.
No, I hear you. Well, we're all on that boat. Right?
I was heavy. I've lost this year. Well, since the end of the last year, I've lost about 30 pounds. Where I am now.
Yeah.
Actually, I actually just got back from a run before we got on here.
Nice, man. Be careful.
Yeah.
Where in Baltimore are you?
We're in Catonsville, so it's
fine. You're fine.
Yeah, it's the burbs.
Yeah.
But dude, I tried to bring a gun, and then Delta. I had an argument with Delta. They stood on my gun case until it opened enough to where they could get their hand in there. They're like, "Oh, you can't fly with this."
What?
Yeah, it was.
What kind of gun case did you have?
Just a little clamshell thing. I mean, it's not. It wasn't super thin, but I've flown with it like, half a dozen times.
Yeah, just throw a Pelican sticker on that, and they won't do that. They love Pelicans, man. Delta's weird, dude. Like when you get to your destination, you pick it up out of the then they take a big old
zip tie,
and I'm like, who's that gonna stop?
Oh, dude. So I always make sure, because Delta is the only carrier that services my regional airport where I live in Lewiston.
Okay.
So I fly Delta and essentially nobody else.
Yep.
So I always make sure to put my knife, because I almost always have 2 bags.
Yeah.
So I make sure to put my knife in my other bag.
Sure.
So that I can go grab that off the carrier, grab my knife out of it, and as soon as I hand me I just cut that thing off.
Yes, exactly. Or even better, man. The first time I saw that, I was flying into Seattle, right? And the girl did that. I'm like, what are you? Because I'd never seen that before. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, so you don't open up in the airport. I'm like, why would I want it to open up in the airport, right? And she goes, well, what if you were, some crazy guy? I go, if I was a crazy guy, you think that could stop me? And then she got this look on her face, and I was like, never mind. It's cool. I got it. Thanks. And I was out. And the funny thing is, I was putting it on the shuttle for the rental cars, right? And, I just kind of, I didn't drop it, but I put it down kind of harshly. And she put the zip tie on so hard that it snapped open. So anyway, Delta, I mean, I know it makes you guys feel good. You're really not doing anything but wasting money on zip ties. So
no, but interestingly enough, and I didn't have, this was in, where was it? I think it was Boston. I forget where I was. I was somewhere big city, liberal area.
Yeah.
And I had a gun with me.
Yeah.
And there was a cop standing next to the bag office when they handed me my stuff. And he threatened if I cut the zip tie off. Oh, no, this was the Delta service agent. They threatened me if I cut the zip tie off, they were going to call the police and have me arrested because I was threatening them.
That's awesome, man.
And if I had more time, because I was in a rush I would have cut that thing off so quick and back. Come on, bro.
Yeah, because that zip tie, that's the thing, man. Your lock's on the gun.
Like I'm pretty sure. Well, you can arrest me for cutting off the zip ties. I mean,
it's not a law. It's a Delta thing.
I would say you can detain me.
Yeah.
But you can't arrest me. You can't charge me with anything.
Right.
For removing zip ties off of the case.
Because it's not a law.
It's not a law. You can't.
The most they could do was kick you off for trespassing because you didn't follow their rules.
Right. And I'm waiting in the airport anyway. See you later.
Yeah, but it's funny. Airports, they're all different and weird. Anyway, we digress about traveling.
Right.
Traveling.
So I want to ask you one last question, then I got to run.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So, what is your opinion? When do iron sights on pistols go away? What's the time frame?
Oh, interesting.
When do iron sights? Because they've already become a thing of the past on rifles.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
done,
right. I mean, except in buoy situations or very specific applications. Iron sights on rifles, thing of the past.
Yeah, so here's the tactical part of me coming out. I think it's going to be a long time before iron sights go away. I mean, you mean in conjunction with the dot, right? So it's a two-part question. When do red dots become ubiquitous on a handgun, right? Like every manufacturer's model has a pre-milled slide on it, and those manufacturers actually offer a package with the dot, kind of like what SIG is doing now, what Smith & Wesson is doing with the Shield series now. 2 years. 2 years, right, before that becomes a thing. When backup irons go away, I don't know, man, because I think my philosophy is blocking that, right? Because I always want a redundant sighting system on a gun. For example, the reason why iron sights have gone away on rifles is because you have things like offset red dots, you have things like IR lasers, where you have that redundant thing. So go away. I don't know, man. I'm going to hopefully say I hope a backup sighting system never goes away. And the easiest one is irons because your gun's already milled for it.
Right.
Is that fair enough?
Fair enough. I mean, I think, I think buoys are going to be around backup irons are going to be around for a while. What I think is going to be interesting if you start seeing some level of flip down or hideaway iron sights on pistols, similar to rifles. I mean, I think that's...
Yeah, but I mean, even if you think about time and efficiency, to go, oh shit, dot's not there, gonna shoot my irons, versus, oh shit, dot's not there.
Right.
I still don't think it's more efficient, and that's a reason why not to have the flip up back irons, because they're not efficient. So anyway, I know you said that was a question you want to ask me. I got one more question before I let you go, right? And this is the get it off your chest segment.
Okay.
Right. You can say anything you want about the industry, about shooting, about competition, anything you want to frame it. Like, you can think of things like, what do people need to start doing to get better? What do people need to stop doing to get better? Or whatever else you want to talk about. Don't talk about your neighbors. Nobody cares about your neighbors. So.
Well, nobody cares about your neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think... what I think the biggest thing, and this is because I've started spending a lot of time with red dots on pistols again, from what I used to, is stop. I think we're still at a point where there's a very large segment of the shooting world that looks at red dots on pistols as a way to buy skill, which in some ways might be true. I mean, but I think.
Oh, that's why everybody's shooting PCC.
Right. That's definitely that's different. That's definitely a way to buy skill. Okay. Hey. There's two paths for you as a shooter. You can work hard and dedicate yourself to become better, or you can shoot PCC. But I think people. I wish people would start accepting red dots for what they are, which is the future progression of technology. Yep. Yes, they're easier. They make it easier to become a better shooter faster than iron sights. Why is that bad?
Brother, I don't know, man.
I mean, it's like, oh, I could do that if I had a red dot. Well, I can do it with iron sights too, but I can teach somebody else to do it faster with a red dot.
100%.
Because you're, I mean, I break down my fundamentals, and this gets into something I know I don't have time to cover, and we're probably running up on time on your show too.
It's my show, bro. I can do whatever I
want. Fair enough. I have fundamental techniques of grip and stance and fundamental skills of sight alignment, sight picture, and trigger control. Well, with a dot or any optic sight, you're removing sight alignment from that equation. Yep. You are totally removing, a skill, and focus is, being able to focus on stuff is a finite thing, right? Like, you have to divide it out. Like, if you don't all of a sudden have 115%, you got 100%, and now you got to parcel that focus out to different things.
Yep.
When you're shooting. So now, if all of a sudden you can absolutely take something off the table, you don't got to worry about it anymore. That gives you more focus that you can apply to sight picture, trigger prep, what you probably should be doing, or for me, when I started shooting a dot again, especially on a slide mounted dot, you learn again. You go back to a learning phase of what do you have to do with your grip to make the gun behave correctly.
Right.
You're adding. We do work to lighten slides, and then we just plop 3 ounces back onto it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend hundreds of dollars to remove the weight from a slide to make the gun cycle better. No, we just throw a red dot on it.
Right. Right.
So things you have to do with your grip, and I've learned a lot about grip, in the past 6 months of shooting this gun, and I've gotten to the point where I can hold the dot in the window of the delta point under recoil.
Yep.
Which I couldn't do when I started out. The dot was whoop, gone. And
okay.
And it could return to roughly the same spot, but now I've gotten to the point after shooting it for a while and changing the way I grip the gun, where now I can sit there and watch the dot the entire way through its recoil arc.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%, man. So awesome. Hey, dude, pump up your stuff, man. Where can people find you? I know you got the online store and stuff like that. Do you teach private lessons? How do people reach out to you so you can make some money, bro?
Yeah. Easiest way to find me is definitely Facebook. I've got an athlete page. I've got an Instagram. Instagram is at BJ Norris 355. And if you're really a nerd, you know what 355 is. And then of course my online store, which is www.shortroundsupply.com. We've got ammo, optics. I would tell you that we had a bunch of Trigicon SROs, but while we were sitting here looking, I just sold the last one. So sorry, guys, no more SROs.
Yep.
But we've got tons of stuff. We've got, if this is being released soon, we've got our Father's Day sale going on. There's some pretty good deals going on.
Cool, man.
On Short Round Supply right now. And then, just I said, follow me on Facebook is the easiest way. I do teach quite a bit and travel, and so hit me up if you want to, host a class in your area. I always do something good for the organizers.
Yeah, hell yeah. You need to tell me the next time you're out here, bro, so I can coordinate my schedule so we can get together. Unfortunately, we could not because I'm going out to Sacramento tomorrow and stuff like that. But so, hey, let me pay the bills now. Otherwise, the CFO gets mad. Hey, guys, if you want to come out and train with me, go to modernsamuraiproject.com. That'll take you to all the links for the classes. Swag, there's shirts, there's different shirts, working on some hats for you and everything like that. modernsamuraiproject.com. You'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you like all this free milk that you're getting, guys, do me a favor. It's free. Just hit subscribe, hit like, tell your friend about it, right? That way we can all get better together, because the most important thing is be good, stay safe, get training.